Friday, 27th of October 1820. In the morning wrote out some poetry for Miss Vallance, and added 2 pages and the ends to my letter to Marion, and had it put into the letter bag this evening. The rain prevented my stirring out. Isabella Norcliffe a great deal better, Miss Vallance poorly in consequence of the dampness of the day. In the evening read from page 302 to 370, Volume 2, Ferguson's Rome. Charlotte and I begin to get on pretty well again together, though there is not doubtless much warmth of love between us. Rainy day and evening with highish wind towards night. What an idle life I lead here. Came upstairs at 10:25 and wrote the above of today. Miss Vallance had spasms, of which account went to her just after Tib got into bed. Got in with my stockings and dressing gown on, and after a little nursing, soothing, fondling, etc., got her into a humour for a kiss, and had a very good one. After which little nap, and then left her, the pain gone off and she saying she would soon fall asleep. Went to her at 11:30 and stayed just an hour. Found Tib awake, but did not trouble her. In fact, my kiss of Miss Vallance was a long one, and I'd had enough. Tib has certainly little idea of her friend's indulgence to me. Tuesday, 5th of February, 1828. Went out with Madame de Rosny at 10:35. Turned right along the Avenue Publique, close to the Barrière, into the quondam Jardin de Beaujon. Walked along the Avenue Chateaubriand and Lord Byron. The many new buildings do not seem to be prosecuted with much haste. Many of the proprietors at the Saint-Pelagie, for debt, return slowly, no walk for me. Madame de Rosny's heel much galled, afraid of the stones along the Élysée Champs, but I really must get to go to Le Bois de Boulogne tomorrow. Bought a 3 3/8 pound shoulder of mutton at Raphael's at 50 per pound. They asked 55. Got home at 10:45, wrote the above of today. Mademoiselle Aspasie came for my old evening dress to alter. Breakfast at 11:30. Dressed. Went out with Madame de Rosny at 1:15. Shopping. From 2 to 2:45 at the model in relief of St. Petersburg, exhibited in the Rue de Rivoli, on too large a scale. Obliged to be in 6 different pieces, which completely breaks the unity of the whole, and gives one little or no idea of the capital intended to be shown. On this account I was disappointed, and know little more of St. Petersburg now than I did before. The models of Switzerland and the model in ditto of London at Geneva are for edification's sake worth 100 of this St. Petersburg. Thence to Bertrand's for Madame de Rosny, and to the Gagne Petit for me. Then left Madame de Rosny. No. 8 Rue du Fort, and went to my aunt. Sat with her an hour. Had a bad night, not well today. Returned for Madame de Rosny at 5, and got home in quarter of an hour. Dinner at 5:45. Afterwards she writing letters, I settling my accounts and writing the last 7 lines. Just before this, sucked her right breast a minute, or perhaps nearly 2 mins, and gave her several sheets of writing paper. Paid for her at the model this morning, all which she takes without difficulty. Talking to my aunt about joining with Mr. Rosny, each one contributing 5,000 francs. My aunt seems inclined to give up all thought of ever returning to England. Should like to see and be with my father, but being at Shibden would not do, on account of servants and preventing Marion having her friends. Wrote out a little of my itinerary in Switzerland. Madame de Rosny in bed at 9:20. From then for an hour at her bedside, right middle finger up while she was awake. Told her she was dry, explained that the clitoris was rather too low. She told me to feel behind to see if all was right as to piles, could perceive nothing wrong. She is certainly less passionate when I touch her than I should expect. Her nerves cannot bear much, yet she likes me to feel her. Threatened to faire un petit voeu, make a little wish. She understood what I meant, the hair of queer. Asked what I would do with it. Said I would have a ring made for it. She said not a word against it. Went to my room at 10:40. Fine day. Friday, 19th of April, 1839. Rain in the night. Fair at 6, but wild, windy morning, and rain and hail between 7 and 8. Fahrenheit 45 inside, 39 outside at 7:45 a.m. Had Anne with me, writing copies of letters and talking. Breakfast at 9, and came upstairs about 9:50. Had Anne with me. Wrote to Mrs. Hawkins, much obliged for the trouble she has taken. Mrs. Devoe's letter so satisfactory, do not hesitate to engage Mr. and Mrs. Gross. It may be the 22nd or 23rd of next month before we can be in London on our way to the continent. Hope Mrs. Hawkins will have a corner to spare for us at that time. Will write again. Wrote also to Mrs. Gross that the character so satisfactory, I engaged her and her husband from the 10th of May as travelling servant and lady's maid, on the usual terms, and will give the wages mentioned, i.e. 40 guineas or 1,050 francs per annum to Mr. Gross, and 20 guineas or 525 francs to Mrs. Gross, and 4 francs a day each en route, and 2 francs a week for her for washing. Expect them to meet me in London, and if it should be 10 or 12 days after the 10th of next, I will allow 3 a day to each person, of the two, from the 10th to the time of my arrival in Dover Street. Sent off these 2 letters by George at 11:20. To Mrs. Hawkins, 26 Dover Street, Manchester Square, London. Postage paid. Gave Anne her Brodie medicine at 11:25, and wrote all but the first line and half of today, till now 11:45 a.m. Then had Booth. Going to Halifax to let Water Lane Mill, probably to Wilson, to be found down to time in £5 penalty per week for every week beyond the time of contract, to be done as soon as possible. Ditto Mallinson's barn, and water got to Hatter Street, all for Anne. For me to see about blocking the little window at Northgate and making the drain against Mr. Abbott's cottages. To get the bill for the bricks used last for the engine flue. Shaw's man to come on Monday to do finish plastering in the hall, and Colpan to come next Monday week to wall off the shop against the old farm stable. Wrote the last 7 lines and went down with Anne to her luncheon at 12:35 for about 10 minutes. She had sago and a glass of old sherry in it, then came upstairs to turn out the imperials, first time since our return. Began with Anne's, and this led to her tidying her armoire, putting away everywhere several things that had no business there. In the midst of all this, between 1 and 2, Mr. Jubb came for about 20 minutes, said the sarsaparilla was so disagreeable to Anne she really could not take it. To send tonight for some pills and lavement apparatus. Then at our siding again till Anne rode off to Cliff Hill at 3:15. Then wrote the last 6 lines. Then busy dawdling over one thing or another, a thorough washing after cousin changing my boots, etc. Anne seemed better for her confiding in Mr. Jubb. The pith of her Cliff Hill aunt pothcations and the hurry of getting off rouses does her good. I have enough to do and think of. Wrote the last 3 lines at 4:10. Went out at 4:15. To the mere. The water within 6 or 7 inches of running out of the mere drift to the water wheel. Nobody there. To Listerwick at 5:45, at which moment the pumps just set going. 2 of the Low Moor men there, and Holt. He said it was better. Said I did not think it would quite answer. Took too much forces to stop the calves. Holt to get Hurd's bill. His men should do no more at the thing. I would send for Garforth if required. Then with Robert Mann. He and his men walling at Listerwick along the road today, and Joseph and Co. at writing up John Oates's garden. To give orders about Skewbank at the head of the mere, and getting water to cost £5 into the paddock. Home at 7:10. Dressed, etc. Dinner at 7:25. Anne sent back Mr. Jubb's Mr. Pickwick, 1 thick, octavo, not 1 page of which we have read. Ordered horses for Leeds at 1 a.m. Anne read French, I asleep on the sofa, till coffee at 9:45, then siding Anne and I till 11:15, at which hour Fahrenheit 47.5 inside and 38 outside. Tolerable day, windy-ish and rain threatening every now and then, and a few occasional drops. Cold westerly wind this afternoon instead of the easterly winds we have so long.